Inhaling through your nose, inhaling. Just practicing the cycle of breath. Exhaling audibly. Just notice your own surrender to your breath. Are you holding on to it? Or are you letting it go, allowing your body to be guided through your breath? And you're simply observing your thoughts right now. There's no right or wrong. It all gets to be here. And just notice your shoulders dropping a little bit more. Maybe you feel a little more rooted in your chair or where you are. And come into your mind's eye with what feels like total surrender. Giving yourself over to your breath, letting the body do the work. I am surrendered. That's it. Opening your eyes if they were closed, releasing your breath patterns, coming back into the room, just noticing what's here for you. Thank you for being here. Give yourself a little bit of gratitude, maybe placing one hand on your heart. And saying thank you, thank you, thank you for being here today. Thank you for showing up. Self, I gotcha. All right, so why is it important to surrender as a leader today? Why do you think it's important to surrender? I'm curious. Write it in the chat. What is it to you when you surrender? What you do? I think for me, surrendering is about letting go of control, letting go of my ego who wants to just drive the bus hard, wants to do all the things that I think my brain needs to do. But the reality is there's this other element of trust, just letting my higher self, letting the universe, letting God, whatever you want to call this leader, this ultimate higher power we all have inside of us, right? Our soul's wisdom, be our guide. And how easy is that? Oh my goodness, it's not easy at all, right? And so relaxing tension is a beautiful sentiment, I think, for this. Love it. Yeah. As a corporate leader, as a person who is responsible for yourself and maybe even others, like you have a team or whatever it is, I don't think we bring this into the corporate world at all, usually, right? We're not talking about surrender in our team huddles, our scrum meeting. I doubt it. But the idea is that you can allow yourself to step aside when we might feel like we've got a little too tight a grip on something and let the universe guide us along with being present to what's going on inside of us and taking inspired action. I think, like, to me, that gives me a peace of mind that I wouldn't otherwise have. And I can trust in that the way I'm showing up is serving, because I've actually handed these issues that I've been going over in my head and feeling and ruminating over, that's really kind of spinning myself out of control, right? I feel stuck. Maybe this is what you feel. You feel stuck. You feel like you can't move forward. And you might feel some fear there, the underlying elements of fear and potentially even things like anger or sadness or hurt, like whatever it is that's keeping us in those ruminating times and thoughts. If we say, you know what? Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm a little bit too tight on this, gripping my thoughts. I'm going to let go and surrender. I'm going to completely just hand this over to the higher being that I can be and what is serving me in this universe. The higher powers, you can call it nature, universe, God, whatever is the bigger meaning than just you and your individual self is all I'm saying here. And that is so challenging. Who thinks that that's easy? It's like, let me know, because that is so not the case. I mean, we're all so good at what we do in the world. I know if you're on this talk, you are a high performer you get stuff done. GSD, right? And surrender is like the last thing you want to do, because then that means, oh wow, I don't have control anymore. But here's the kicker, and I love this part about surrender. It's a tool and a skill to trust ourselves as we trust and let go of the control. And so my vision for all of you and for the thing that drives us is to hold the duality of, I can take inspired action. I can still do things. I can still take the motions and drive whatever actions I need, but I'm also holding the duality, this other pole of surrender, because I know and I trust and believe there are ways that I can show up that will serve me that I might not even be conscious of or aware of right now. And that's the job of the universe or the higher power, the nature or God or whatever you want to call it. And together they work together. But if I can't just hand it all over, because then I'm just not taking responsibility for how I am. But I can also do both. And that's the challenge, I think, as a corporate leader, as a woman in business, as someone who has the job of not having to overthink stuff, but knowing there's a lot to think about, right? And like, that's what gets us into trouble, I think. So think about it like, we can practice this. This can be the power of surrender, because it gives us peace of mind. We can step aside, we can give ourselves a little pause, if you will, like a little break, and say, oh, you know what? I don't need to be worrying about this 24/7. This isn't my job to worry about this. This is only adding to the fuel of feeling a little stressed. What if, and this is a great what if I practiced that breath work we did in the beginning, and I just said, I am surrendered, and I allow and I trust that there are things that I cannot physically see or touch that are at play here, because my mental model, my mind knows there's a connection here with the universe, because I am in a quantum field where I can be expansive beyond my physical body, beyond what Alan Watts would call the bag of skin and bag of bones that we all are. Who knows Alan Watts? Remember Alan Watts? Love Alan Watts. So take a breath into that and just notice how you feel. And I ask you, how do you feel about surrender right now? What comes up for you? Is there resistance there? Is there joy or fear, apprehension? It all gets to be here. This is the beauty of being human, everybody. It's not about the right or the wrong, or one way or always or never, like these absolutes we usually live in sometimes. That's just subjective thinking. That's not objective. Surrender can be a tool when you want to get out of that mental tailspin and move forward in ways that serve you. I think that is a really exciting way to be. And I think about it like, what if I could surrender? So instead of criticizing myself and say, why do I suck at this? I can choose to surrender that maybe that's not the case, and allow my higher self or the universe to help guide me in ways that I don't yet know. To me, that is the power of pausing, by the way. You're in the unknown. That's a pause. What if you use the power of surrender to maybe allow yourself more quality time to spend the time that you would love to do the things you love that bring you joy, hobbies, right? So maybe you love going to the farmer's market, or painting in your class, or doing something like writing. But now you surrender because you would choose to create that time, and you're just you don't know how it's gonna happen, you don't know what you're gonna do, but you surrender because you trust that those paths will open up when you create the mindset that goes beyond our physical limitations of our own ego and critic mind that can kind of kick in when we feel fear. Right? What if you use the power of surrender when you find yourself comparing yourself to others? man, I wish I had those Excel chops that this person has. She seems to get all the awesome tools and reports done. And I don't. Well, that isn't going to serve you. That's not a productive thought. What if you actually shifted that to say, I surrender to the powers of the universe or God or whatever you want to call it again. And I'm going to trust that I can show up in ways that serve me going forward. And know that I have changed in the last year, and I actually have improved my skills in Excel because I took that class 6 months ago, or I asked for this help on how to do this certain thing. I'm just pulling examples out of my, you know what, to make a point, right? So that's the idea, that is why it's so important to surrender. It gives you hope for alternatives that our own human minds can sometimes get really bogged down in. And I know for me, the story I want to share, and I don't think I share this enough. I feel a little fear myself sharing it, but I think it's important, is my biggest lesson in surrender was surrendering right after my pause ended, my 3-month unpaid break. This was over 10 years ago. I surrendered to the universe. I surrendered to God at the moment. And I'm not particularly religious, by the way, that I was tired of worrying about my relationship. I just didn't want to have to deal with it anymore. And I just decided I hand it all over. I'm not going to worry about this. And then the next morning I woke up, and I kid you not, I didn't have a thought in my mind. All of a sudden I wasn't thinking about any ruminating thoughts. I just had this openness. I went out, I led a bike tour that day in Napa. And everything felt different to me. Everything looked different to me. I had thoughts that I had never had before. And I truly believe that was my own spiritual awakening in many ways on a new level. Maybe that'll be my next book, talking about that. But that was because I surrendered, and I literally felt committed to it. I was like, I'm 100% surrendering this. I didn't kind of half surrender. I wasn't like, all right, I think I'm going to surrender this today, but maybe I won't tomorrow. Like, there was no doubt in my mind. I was just like, I'm done. I'm giving this over to the universe in terms of how to deal with it. And so I just invite you into that space of what could it look like for you if you took your biggest challenge or whatever isn't serving you and you handed it over to whatever it was that you felt good at handing it over to. And it might just be your higher self. Right? It's a power bigger than your own individual self that's kind of in the day-to-day muck. All right. So what are you getting out of this? I'm so curious. Leave me a message. Let me know. I think as a corporate leader, this doesn't need to be anything other than knowing you have the ability and the authority, by the way, to delegate this to the higher powers that be, to whatever that is that's concerning you, that you're frustrated about, that you feel deeply moved by, that isn't serving you. The power of surrender and why that's so helpful. I think it can really help with that. And if you haven't tried it, try it. Just decide right now that you're interested to give this an experimental try. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's no fail, succeed. This is simply a success. And if you are a surrenderer already, maybe you are, I want to know. Let me know, everybody. What's worked for you? What happened? Can you share your story with me? I would love to know. You can leave me a message. You can come and join the Pause to Thrive women's group community where we support each other and learn about these things together. And again, it's just one tool in your arsenal. There's so many things you can do, but as a high EQ leader, self-awareness is the baseline of how we can all rise to our next level of leadership. And why not try this? And this is challenging, right? Because that means I actually have to let go of my control and trust that there's other things. And I'm not saying you sit back and don't do anything. That is not what I'm saying at all. This is actually you doing something, is to surrender, knowing that you are in support of the quantum, of the universe, the field, the atoms, that molecules that make you up, that make up every single star and planet and everything that's not empty space in the vacuum. We're all made of that same stuff. All right. I said a lot, and I feel a lot of joy because this is a hard topic to bring and approach, especially in a world where we don't really talk about this in the corporate world at all, but what if we all surrendered and allowed ourselves to be guided in ways that could give us a little more insight and intuition that's already within you, and allowed yourself to access this? That's the power of surrender. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this is helpful for you. And if you do find this helpful, please share this with someone you think could benefit. Anyone who's a corporate leader in this world who might need a little support right now. Feel free to pass this along, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.